COS, Ministry of Manpower, Mr. Desmond Choo.
Chairman, I beg to move that the total sum to be allocated for head heirs of the estimates to be reduced by $100. When it was reported in January this year that China's population declined for the first time since 1961, the Chinese stock markets wobbled. It was widely expected because of its aging population and declining fertility. But it was still a sobering reality, a reality of potential shrinking consumption and most certainly a declining workforce. It faces perhaps a Japanese-style 3 decades-long economic stagnation. In Singapore, by 2030, around 1 in 4 citizens will be aged 65 and above. Our resident old age support ratio reached an all-time low at 3.8 in 2022. It is projected to reach 2.7 in 2030. As of June 2022, 880,000, or roughly 1/3 of our resident workforce, is 50 years old and above. 400,000 are 60 years old and above. A significant number of these 400,000 would have retired by the end of this decade. Seniors comprise 54% share of workers in land transport and supporting services, people doing taxi, private hire car drivers, bus drivers, and 42% of the F&B services, hawkers, food, drink store assistants. These are much higher than in other industries. But what does this really mean for us as a nation? Our economy will become less vibrant as our workforce shrinks. We might face hollowing out of certain industries such as in land transport, F&B, tradesmen, and machine operators. It is less of a problem if it was a gradual shift with sufficient time to adjust, but it might not be so. The oldest of our baby boomer generation is 77 years old today. The youngest is 59 years old. They are likely to exit the workforce by the end of this decade in large numbers. While our birth rate peaked in the late 70s and early 80s, giving us another 10 odd years of buffer. Structural shift might accelerate rapid erosion. Technology, digitization, and AI have already changed the nature of many jobs. These are skill sets that people born in the 60s, 70s, and 80s might not particularly be equipped with or can be picked up easily. Work attitudes have also changed. Our people also do not want to work at the same pace, cadence, and intensity in their later years. Now, how common is it to hear of friends saying that they wanted to slow it down, but the treadmill seemingly can only go faster? At the recent post-budget dialogue with Tampines residents, a resident in his 50s commented with part joy and part exasperation that he might have to make a choice between caregiving for his grandchildren and his full-time work, because there are rarely part-time work or slower work to go into. The COVID pandemic has also fostered a rethinking of work-life priorities and leads some older Singaporeans to exit the workforce permanently if unable to find a compromise. We face a serious drop-off, a cliff drop in the workforce. It can unsettle our economy and society fundamentally. The questions before us are the older workers ready for the future jobs, and are the jobs ready for the older workers? First, we need to make preparing for an aging workforce an economy-wide priority. Our employment rate of seniors aged 65 and above has eased from 31.7% in 2021 to 31% in 2022. It still rose on average between 2019 and 2022. Now, this is positive. We have also moved definitively to tackle ageism, a perennial complaint of older workers, through a proposed workplace fairness legislation. Now, this will reassure many older workers. Yet, these moves might not be sufficient for the future. We need to include within each of the industry transformation maps a pillar on creating and transforming age-friendly jobs. It is no longer sufficient to create jobs that are of high economic value, but we must also focus on jobs that our older Singaporeans can and will do. The focus must rightly be so on bringing in jobs that grow the economy, but the entire economic value chain, we must identify jobs that mature workers can do well. I often wonder what is the percentage of available and upcoming jobs that will match the physical, mental, and lifestyle needs of older Singaporeans. We need to double down on our job redesign efforts. What is the number of jobs that have been redesigned over the years to match our aging workforce? This must be a number we track closely. Next, I would like to share on the experience of SBS Transit. I would like to declare that I'm an independent director of SBST. Now, older workers are a significant part of the company. Maintenance, especially in the train systems, can be very physically taxing. Now, we struggle to attract younger workers in the workforce, like many other companies. To help the older workers above 55 years old continue to be productive, SBST is redesigning jobs from the ground up. They have an overhead catenary system, or the electrical cable is supplying power to the trains. Inspection and maintenance require hard physical work with heavy equipment. Today, they use lightweight equipment such as laser gauges. Condition-based maintenance is practiced to reduce physical deployment. Older workers are redeployed to inspection closer to ground than higher level ones. Some workers have gone into mentorship or trainer roles. More than 50 maintenance crew have benefited from this change, and many more will benefit in years to come. The SBST board monitors such development closely. We need more companies such as SBST. Admittedly, it is a larger company with more resources. We need solutions for SMEs which hire the bulk of our workforce. For companies seeking to make changes, funding support is available with the support for job redesign under Productivity Solutions Grant. Could the ministry share whether it will consider increasing its co-funding share? For example, where the applicant is engaging consultancy services for elder-friendly job redesign. Next, we need to look at redesigning our work structure. We have often heard of mature workers hoping for part-time work or micro jobs, but there is dearth of them. Creating part-time jobs do cost companies more. But as it is a social compact imperative to pay more to support our lower wage workers, perhaps it is also time for similar thinking for older workers. MOM's part-time re-employment grant has helped to increase availability of part-time re-employment to senior workers. Could the ministry update on the progress and achievements of the grant? Can we renew and enhance this part-time re-employment grant? We can also consider private-public partnership in fostering such part-time and micro jobs. In Japan, Silver Human Resources Centers are established since 1975 as job agencies for seniors. These are membership-based organizations that provide older Japanese with temporary and short-term work. Public and municipal agencies lean in to create and find work for older workers. An associated point is creating specialized centers that focus on helping our older workers to manage employment needs. Our current job and placements ecosystem has worked well for the general needs of the workforce. But older workers have different needs, such as shorter training runway, physical limitations, and life expectations. In 2017, Japan started Hello Work Senior. It is a job placement agency specially catered for workers above 60 years old. The service works with employers to understand their needs and preferences and match them with suitable older candidates. As geriatrics is a specialty within medicine, Silver Placement Centers can have a special place in our placement ecosystem. Our aging workforce is also an opportunity to advance assistive technology to help workers work for longer and safer. Our public transport operators have already put in driver monitoring, collision avoidance, and driver alertness technology. Many of our bus captains today are able to work well into the late 60s and beyond. There are many other industries, especially those with significant number of older workers, that we must deep dive into. We must establish research centers dedicated to helping workers stay employed for longer. Such research centers can focus on developing assistive technology, identifying jobs to be more suited for senior workers, and developing appropriate training to transit into such jobs. Our IHL, such as the Singapore Management University Center for Research on Successful Aging, are a case in point. Can the ministry consider looking into establishing such research centers? Flexible work arrangement is often cited as a solution to balance the needs of older workforce and business needs of companies. Indeed, it is an essential tool, not just for an older workforce. We have made significant strides in expanding FWA. Tripartite guidelines are useful to guide tripartite progress in implementing FWA, but we might need to take bolder steps in the near future. We should rightly allow for voluntary take-up by companies because of the difficulties in implementation. We can even grant monetary incentives to companies with progressive practices. But if progress does not meet our needs, we might need to consider giving workers certain rights to FWA to accelerate the scaling up of FWA efforts. Lastly, our aging workforce also necessitates us to look into the roles played by our foreign workforce. As our people age, there is a significant need in certain industries such as healthcare and caregiving support tradesmen and craftsmen work, such as plumbing, aircon servicing, and carpentry. If we are unable to improve our productivity significantly over the next decade, we might have no choice but to greatly increase our foreign workforce. There are already 1.3 million foreign work pass holders in Singapore today. Therefore, our foreign workforce framework will need to be more nuanced, differentiated, and promote higher productivity. There could be certain high-touch industries that we want to keep for a larger core of older Singaporeans. And there are other industries where we need more foreign support, especially those involving more physical work. The current broad-based, sector-based approach will need to be more finely differentiated. This is difficult work and might require a multi-year effort. Can the ministry share with the House how it would calibrate its foreign manpower framework within the context of an aging workforce? The rapidly aging population poses serious challenges to fiscal sustainability and economic growth. When older workers retire, they are less able to deal with problems such as higher inflation. Our younger workers are likely to shoulder heavier caregiving loads, with some even having to leave the workforce to do so. If Singaporeans are unable to fill job openings, employers will have to look to foreign labor to do so. We must act decisively and swiftly to ensure we do not find ourselves in such a predicament. We need to evolve a new social compact within the context of an aging population. Only when both our jobs and our older workers are ready for each other would we be able to manage this smoldering crisis. Thank you.